Okay, hello everybody on Facebook and YouTube. We are excited to have you. This is Change with Ted Williams. Remember, change starts with you. I am so excited and so grateful that I have three of my really good friends who are scholars, and they're going to actually be joining us for a couple of conversations that we're going to have tonight. So, as you know, on this show that we do every Saturday, we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, we combine politics, we combine faith, and we combine art into one sort of space in which we kind of talk about all of it. And so we're going to play a trivia game as we normally do. And actually, if you guys give me 1 second, I have to make sure we share this to all the appropriate places. So if you guys want to do that as well, because I've got people that are probably looking on my one page and it's on another page. So I need to go ahead and just share that real quickly now that we've started. But we have a really good time doing all of this. So let me go ahead and just get this shared over. And if you guys want to play the game with us, please feel free to do so. As you know, there will be some prizes I have here. I got a bunch of stuff from my shows and stuff I've written that nobody wants. No, actually, you do want, but I'm going to share it with you guys. So let me go ahead and I'm going to share this over to our multiple places, so we can get rolling here. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Okie dokie. All right. There we go. All right. We are shared. Okay, cool. So as people are coming in, they're going to join us. Just give a few seconds here. Why don't we do this before I get started with my game? I want you guys to go around the room and tell everybody who you are. You guys gave me a really cool introduction earlier that I thought was great and much better than what I could say, even though I could brag about each one of you. You guys did a very good job telling us all the stuff you're doing. So why don't we have you guys go around and let's start with you at the top, Mr. Logically Faithful. Tell us a little about you and the work that you do and what we're going to be talking about today. So go ahead.
Right. Okay. This is Khaldun Swais. I'm originally from Jordan. I'm associate professor of philosophy at the City Colleges of Chicago, one of the greatest colleges out there. Strongly recommended. Not that I'm biased at all. But I'm also head of a ministry called Logically Faithful. Logically Faithful, primary focus is to help believers become thinkers and to make thinkers into believers. Because my goal is to address culture redemptively and to make sure we are dealing with suffering productively.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Down here, Connie Mixon.
Hi, I'm Connie Mixon. I am a professor of political science and director of the Urban Studies program at Elmhurst College. But I am a past City College of Chicago professor. I taught it daily and was an interim dean at Olive Harvey for a while. I have a book titled 21st Century Chicago, which examines the major social, economic, political, and governmental challenges facing Chicago. And Ted and I have done a few of these shows before, back when it was WYCC, the professors, and always had wonderful conversations. So I'm really looking forward to tonight and meeting all of you tonight. So thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Daniel Davis.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. My name is Daniel Davis. I'm a professor of Africana Studies at Kennedy King College. I also teach at St. Xavier University. Most recently, I've written on educational inequality, the Black-White educational achievement gap, and hip-hop studies.
Awesome. So that's cool. Well, let me just explain to you guys what's going to happen tonight, because this is going to have a lot of fun. So first of all, we're going to play this trivia game, and no cheating, folks, by the way. No cheating. We're going to actually play. We normally play with Kahoot. We're going to play where you put the answers in the comment section. So, you know, that. But then we're going to have a little conversation with Dr. Swais about some of his work and how do we get through these challenging times of suffering with hope and faith during the COVID-19 crisis. And then after that, we are going to have a short panel with Dr. Mixon and Dr. Davis to really discuss, number one, the issue of gun violence in America, which is still going on, by the way, which you'd be surprised is happening, and how do we deal with that? But beyond that, because it's one of my issues that I care a lot about and I like to talk a lot about on these shows. But beyond that, we're going to talk about COVID and U.S. politics and the presidential election and what's going on with inequality and all that good stuff. And so we'll spend a little time doing that. And then last but not least, I always have an entertaining segment on this show. So last week we did our show 1619 and we showed clips from the show. We had the cast. It was a lot of fun. The week before that, we did a Mother's Day play. And the week before that, we had Shannon Stiles, who was a solo artist who did some singing and stuff for us. But this was going to be a little different, okay? We're going to have an entertaining debate, all right? And you guys got to hang on for this because I'm telling you, this debate is more important than what's going on in the Senate right now. It's more important than what's going on in the House right now. Dr. Davis, the scholar here, has suggested in the musical realm that one of his favorite artists has surpassed one of my favorite artists. And we have had this conversation in class about Beyonce and Michael Jackson and the different worlds. And we've had this conversation in class. And so we're going to actually have this debate live here on Facebook and on YouTube. And as I said in the video I did to promote this, Davis, you're going down. I mean, I like you. I'm just telling you right now, you don't stand a chance in this debate, but you initiated it. You asked for it. I see you put your kids' photos and drawings in the background so that people would give.
I tried to soften it a little bit, man.
You know, he's a family man. Let's support him. But I'm very competitive, and so we're going to do that. Okay. All right. So, folks, here we go. Here are a couple of trivia questions. So, what you do once again is we're looking at the comment section, and so if you're with us and you're going to play. You just give us a like real quick so we know you're out there and that you guys are going to play with us. So we're going to have you type the answers into the comment section. Okay, so here we go, everybody. Here we go. Okay, so first question. These are so tough, folks. This week in the news, President Trump ordered U.S. governors to open what? See who can get in here fastest. Okay. To open what, people? And you're going to keep your own score, so you have to be honest. Okay. Honesty is the best policy. I'm trying to see. I'm watching this live. Okay. So I got it. Okay. So President Trump, those of you guys who are popping in, ordered this week that governors should open up what? Okay. TJ looks like was first in there. And TJ, I was going to give other people a chance, but TJ answered first. TJ said that places of worship, deeming them essential. 1 point for TJ, very good. TJ's a former student, everybody, so he has a leg up. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Question number 2. All right, question number 2. Okay, the Inspector General for the Secretary of State's office was fired this week for investigating the sale of weapons to which country? The IG for the Secretary of State's office was fired this week for investigating the sale of weapons to which country? Come on in the chat. I'm waiting for you guys. I see you, Jonathan. I see you, Jessica. I see you, Lavinia. What's up? I see some other folks in here. I'm waiting for the answer. Which country? Do you guys want multiple choice? You guys get multiple choice? You guys need multiple choice. Okay, all right, professors. I suppose you guys can play too. But you gotta throw in the stick. I'm waiting in the comments. I guess you guys are afraid. It's like, come on, folks. I'm giving away. Listen, I got 1619 t-shirts. Hold up. I'm gonna show you what I have if you want. Hold on a second. Just wait 1 second. Okay, so as you guys know, I think Connie Mixon, we were able to come out to Elmhurst College a few months ago. It was such a great time. Thank you so much. But check this out. Look at this, guys. Don't you want one of these? Oh, yes. 1690. So if you win the game, I'm going to send you either a 1619 t-shirt. I have a couple books that I've written. Okay, so I've got this book called The Way Out, about politics and Christianity in the African American community. I got this book right here about religion and politics. It's called Impolite Company. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. I got my old show. It's called Torn. We used to do this here. I got these t-shirts in my office, folks. I got so much stuff here. I'm going to send you something, but you got to win the game. Now, right now, TJ has 1 point, and no one else has a point. And someone put China, and that's incorrect. I apologize. It is. If you watch my videos, you would know this. Someone put China, and I don't have an answer. So I don't know if anybody wants to handle this question, but we might have to move on because I don't think I'm getting an answer for it.
Well,
no? Nobody? Okay, the answer is, repeat the question. I'll get out of here. Okay, I'll repeat the question. Here we go, one more time. The IG for the Secretary of State's office was fired this week for investigating the sale of weapons by the Trump administration. To which nation? They was investigating the sale of these weapons. They went around Congress. They did not use the Congress to actually get these weapons. And so which country did they sell it to? Why was it so controversial? You got 10, 9, 8. Somebody put China. 7, 6. Stop trying to talk to Dr. Davis. A lot of you guys are like, hey, Dr. Davis, how are you? Dr. Davis's fan club is on the line, okay? Like, I don't have time for that.
I can't even see it. Yo, what's up?
4, 3, 2. Anybody? The answer is, anybody want to answer for us on the panel, anybody? Saudi. Oh, Jessica. Jessica Alfaro got it. Jessica got it right before I said it. Saudi Arabia. Wonderful. Good job, Jessica. All right, it's one of my old students there. Good job, Jessica. Very proud of you. Okay, Jessica's got 1. Tina's got 1. We only have 8 questions, so here we go. Number 3. This is an easy one, probably. During quarantine, we all got a lot of time to watch TV. Everyone's watching this sports documentary on ESPN that is covering the career of which famous player? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. I'm looking. I don't see anything.
You got to
3.
be
There you go, Jessica. Oh no, Omar got it before Jessica. Oh, I see everybody got that. I see D. I see you, D. How are you? Dana's got it, but you know what, Jessica? Omar actually got it first, so I got 1 point for Omar. 1 point. You guys are helping me with the score, guys. I'm really bad. Thank you. I see you. Thank you, Countdown. I appreciate it. Number 23. Okay, the answer is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, number 4. Okay. The United States has the most coronavirus cases in the entire world. Which country this week has gone to the number 2 spot for the number of coronavirus cases in the world? Which country has the second most number of cases in the world as of this week? Here we go. 10, 9. Hey, Patrick. 7. What is this, like a Kennedy King reunion? Like all my students are on tonight. This is so funny. I love it. It's so cool. 10. You know I love you guys. I love my students. I know you all love your students too. You know how it is. We all, you know. Okay, someone put, Dana George put China. D put China. Someone put, Omar put Great Britain. And Jessica put Brazil. Jessica, you are correct. You are correct, Jessica. Jessica has 2 points. Everybody else has 1 point. Very good. Sorry, Patrick, you came in too late, bro. You missed the snooze, you lose. The UK is not correct. Brazil has the second most cases of coronavirus in the world now, second behind the United States. All right, Jessica's leading on this game. Okay, here we go. Number 5. This is a funny question. I'm going to make it real simple. Here it is. It's four words in this question. Joe Biden said what?
He didn't do it.
Joe Biden said what this week, folks?
Wasn't me.
What did Joe Biden say this week, folks? That was controversial.
Trump's fault.
What did he say? What did he say? What did he say? Tanisha said, you ain't black. Jessica said, you ain't black. Okay, you know what, Jessica? You got it, but Tanisha got it in there first, it looks like. So Tanisha gets that point. I think that's your first point, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Omar, you got it right too, but it's all based on who gets it first, folks. So Dana says something about black people. Yes. Okay, you ain't okay, right. I think Omar got that. So, I mean, not Omar, excuse me. What did I say? Tanisha. Okay, so you got that, Tanisha. Let's keep on going. I think we in a tie. I've lost track of the score. I'm sure you guys are going to tell me. I'm sure they'll tell me whatever it is. Okay, I do this in class. All right. All right. 2 more questions, folks. Okay. Oh, shoot. 1 second. Okay, this week in the news, this major college eliminated its SAT and ACT requirement. This week in the news, this major college eliminated its SAT and ACT requirement. You guys have multiple choice for this one? I think you do. Let me make a few up really quickly. I didn't give you my okay. All right. Is it A, Harvard University, B, the University of Illinois, C, the University of California, or D, Michigan State? We got a Michigan State alumnus in the house, don't we?
We sure do.
Okay. So I said Harvard, University of Illinois, University of California, or Michigan State. Which school this week eliminated its ACT and SAT requirement for admissions? Okay, let's see. Wait a second. I see this moving quickly. Lauren Franklin Raymond, the attorney, is in the house, folks. And she said the University of California system, and she has gotten it right first. Now, I see that D got SIU. No, D, you missed that one. Jessica got University of California. Very good, but you were too late. You snooze, you lose. Omar, you're killing it, but you're just moving too slow, buddy. Tanisha got it. I'm so proud everybody got it, but it looks like the attorney in the house, Lauren Raymond, actually got that point. Congratulations. I can't even talk anymore. Congratulations, Lauren. You got that point. Okay, it was the University of California. All right, next question. This week, this state reported less than 100 deaths from the coronavirus for the first time since the pandemic began. Which state this week reported less than 100 deaths for the coronavirus for the first time since the pandemic began? You guys know this one? You guys know this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a guess, but
Okay. Cool. Okay. How are you guys? How you guys doing on this so far?
Except for the gun sales when I knew them, but I didn't know who the investigation was about.
Okay. All right, what we got here? Let's see. Here we go. Okay, first person was, hey, Betty, how are you? Hello, Janine. The first person, let's see, the first TJ put New York. Is the answer New York? Lauren put Washington. Patrick said this is rigged. Oh, Patrick, get over yourself. Jessica put New York. Don't start. This is just like class, man. Dana's passing on this one. Lenora put New York. The answer is, ladies and gentlemen, New York. New York. So that would be, who got that first? Was that again? That was going to be TJ. So I think TJ and Jessica are in tie for the most. I think they both got 2 right, and everybody else got 1, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you will. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to give you guys, actually, I told you 8. I'm going to give you 10. We're at number 8 right now. Okay. Let's see. We got Jessica and TJ in the lead. Most everybody else has 1. If you guys can get this, you might tie. And what do you get for tying? Nothing. Okay. This is America, folks. Okay. All right. So, okay, here we go. There is a major conspiracy theory running around the world right now, and maybe you don't think it's conspiracy. News stories that are suggesting that the coronavirus is being passed in the world by the construction of this. Okay, here we go. So we got here. Jessica put first. Good job, Jessica. You were first. She put 4G towers, but she is incorrect. It is what? 5G towers. Somebody put 3G towers. No. And TJ was the first one that got that right. TJ now has taken the lead. Jessica, I'm very sorry. You know I would help you out. You know you my homegirl, Jessica, but TJ got it. 5G towers. Patrick, you're too late. I'm sorry. Tanisha, you were a little late. Angela, you guys are good. You guys got it, but TJ got that one. Okay, 5G towers. All right, next question. There was a news story this week that suggested that President Biden has begun vetting this former presidential candidate for his potential vice president. Who is this person? Who is the person that the news is writing about? That Vice President, that President Biden, candidate Biden has begun vetting. You see that? I called him BP, I called him all these things, okay, right? Has begun vetting for this. No helping, LOL, right?
Hey, Ted, I can think of two for that.
Can you really? Uh-oh. Connie, I've only read about one. So, let's go ahead and see what we get.
Yeah.
And then we've got a fact checker here, an expert political scientist. So if I'm missing something, and she's your advocate here, okay? And she will make sure you get the point. So okay. All right. So it looks like Lavinia, she put Klobuchar, and that is correct. That was what I was thinking of. Now, Connie, who else was I didn't see a story.
Kamala Harris.
He was vetting Kamala Harris. I didn't know that he was vetting Kamala Harris. I missed that one. So, but nobody put it. So we're okay. So Miss Boyer gets it. Okay. All right. Fantastic. And last but not least, the final question. This week in the news, President Obama, oh my gosh. I just gave you the answer. I was going to ask which former politician did Trump just pick a fight with about his response to the coronavirus crisis. And I just gave you that one, so I blew it. And so I've got one more, one more question.
What was
Here we go. Give me 1 second. Say it again.
The question was President Obama's response to that criticism?
I love it. I got another political scientist here. Go for it. Answer her question, number 10. What was President Obama's response to the question? You asked the question and you judge the answer too, Connie. I love it.
All right. I can't see the responses.
Okay.
You have to keep track of that.
Okay. If you click, so I'm going to give it a second for the responses. Okay. Oh my gosh. Dr. Davis just lost power in his house.
Oh.
So he's rebooting. This is crazy, huh?
I got it. I can see it now.
Okay. All right. So, folks, what was President Obama's response? That's our final question. I'm not sure I know the answer to this question. Okay.
Grow up slow.
Was that the response?
No. You want to know what the response was?
No, not yet. Give them a couple minutes. Give them a minute. They're gonna ask in a second. Okay. What else we got? I'm sure somebody else is gonna pop in. Just guess, folks. You may as well guess, right? Okay. All right. I think Dana George says he's acting childish. Is that the correct response? No, it would be a good response, wouldn't it? Okay. What else? Okay, Connie, I think we're gonna let go of this question because I think we're gonna. So, what's the correct response?
His tweet in response was simply vote.
Oh, I love it. Vote. I love it. Okay, fantastic. So it looks like, guys, from this, and please, I'm sure you will correct me if I am wrong. I believe TJ came in first and Jessica came in second. So congratulations, everybody. Everyone else, guys, we play this every week. If you want to win one of these, I'm going to show you again. 1619 t-shirts. Ooh, right? Or books from Professor Williams that you may want to read, you may not want to read, but at least you'll win the book. And at least you can say that you've gotten it. I've got a couple of these books here. If you want to win one, I will mail these to you. Maybe I'll drop them off at your house personally. And it looks like TJ, I owe you a book or a t-shirt. And so TJ, hit me up and collect. And I'm sure if I don't give it to you by next week, you will embarrass me on this live stream. So I'll make sure that I take care of it. So what we're going to do now, guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about politics in a second. But I want to give our friend, Dr. Sweetson, and Dr. Mixon, you can hang out with us and just stay on because we're going to take a few minutes to talk about what he's doing. And then we're going to get back into our political discussion. And once again, Jessica, you don't get a T-shirt. I'm sorry, you came in second. This is America. Once again, unfortunately, only the winner gets a T-shirt. But next week. But what we're going to do once again is we're going to talk about Dr. Sweiss's work, and then we're going to talk about politics for a little while. And then we're going to have a really cool musical debate about MJ and Beyonce and some other things like that. So hang out with us for a second. And Dr. Sweiss, so let's take a few minutes just to talk about what it is that you do and why you have a particular desire to give people hope during this time. We talked about this, and you shared with me that, man, I feel like that. Well, I'll let you explain what you shared, particularly about the issue of hope during the time of COVID-19.
In 2006, Ted, I lost my son. His name was Enoch. He died in my arms. It was a devastating time for me and the family. We had to learn and acknowledge the fact that suffering is a part of life. A part from life, not just a part of life, because it wasn't originally meant to be this way. And the more we realize that life is not about my personal happiness, and once I get out of my narcissistic box of thinking all the world's about me like a 2-year-old, then I can really make a difference in the world. And that started me thinking a number of years after that to start something that will help others deal with that, because everyone at one time or another is going to face a flood of suffering or pain or misery of one time or another. And all of life is like that. And the sooner you deal with that, the sooner you address that, the better you're able to deal with it and become a better beacon of light for yourself, your family, your community, and your world.
So what do you think people ought to be? And I appreciate you sharing that story. I know that that is the fuel that drives your ministry. And I am so grateful that you have chosen to turn your pain into purpose and to bless so many other people with all the books you've written, all the engagements that you do speaking wise. What do you think people ought to be thinking about and doing during this time of quarantine, shelter in place? How can we turn this pain into purpose?
In America, generally speaking, we're one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and there are parts of poverty, there are parts that are not. Either way, most of us have air conditioning, most of us have some kind of ability to sleep in a bed at night. There are people who cannot do that, and we need to reach out to them. But many of us live lives of comfort, and then becoming uncomfortable is not something that we are learned or accustomed to. So it's very difficult to do that. But when we do that, what we have to do is engage ourselves, dealing with the person in the mirror, and learning, what have I done wrong in my life? How have I not been a good husband, better father, better teacher, better employee? What is it that I'm eating? Not just physically, but psychologically, spiritually. These types of things are thoughts that you reflect on when you are in isolation. And the ancients have said that it's a time when you are able to put yourself into a mental or spiritual desert. And then think about, where am I lacking in my life, in my relationship with my family, my work, my community, and ultimately with God, that's not helping me be the best person I can be. And I think at this time, when we are alone a lot of times and away from others, we can think about that much more so than others and become more productive about it.
Fantastic. It's interesting because, America, during the middle of this crisis, we're the number one nation for deaths for COVID-19 crisis, number one cases, largest number of cases in the entire world. Over 90,000 people have died. 1.5 million people have been infected in this country. Over 200,000 have actually recovered. There's so much destruction going on, right? And I'm a person that, I'm spiritual, I'm artistic, I'm academic, but I have my times where I'm up and happy, and there are times I'm down and, whatever. But it's interesting because I have noticed that people are producing things that they've never produced before because of this time. There are books that are being written. There are, I know I've been spending a ton of time just writing and creating and things like that. And so the work that you do primarily is around helping people to find some sort of hope in times of suffering. What would you say to our audience members that are going through something in their lives right now that they're just trying to get through? They're struggling, they're hurting, whether family members going through things or you name it. What would you tell them to give them hope?
The average person thinks about 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, according to the University of California's Neuroimaging Center that analyze this kind of thing. The vast majority of these thoughts, or at least the conscious ones, are about negativity. And fascinating, we take those negativities and we expand them. It's like taking it's not a telescope, Ted, but it's something that kids look into, and it changes the image when you look through it in your eye. I forgot, it's a kaleidoscope of some sort. I believe that's what it is. Yeah. Sometimes we can take the telescopes of life and make it to a kaleidoscope of negativity, of pain, of bitterness, of anger, of hopelessness. We can do that to ourselves. It was Milton who said the human mind can make a heaven out of hell and a hell out of heaven. We can take situations and explode them way beyond the necessity of what they really are. So first, see things as they really are. By doing that, you can actually step back and not get yourself so enamored into the negativity of it that you're not able to think rationally, logically. And how to do that? Talk to other people who actually care about you. Spend time with people who want the best for you. Listen to people who actually care about you. And now we just do that using social media, the things you're doing now, Ted. Connecting with others, getting on the phone, maybe even speaking across the balcony, taking a walk, because the world is not about me. And once I realized that and realized that God has a better purpose for me than just thinking about the negativities of my life and the negativities of the world, how can I take the pain, take the suffering, take the difficulty that I'm in, and improve it? Let me give you an illustration of this. In one of the greatest novels ever written, the Lord of the Rings, the first one, the Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, is struggling with what to do, with why he was given the task, the incredible responsibility of taking the ring of power. And he kept asking himself, because he saw his friends suffering, his colleagues fallen, his family's lives destroyed. And he thought to himself, why is this happening to me? And Gandalf, the great wizard, says to him, it is not for us to ask why, but for us to ask, what can we do with what has been given us? Because asking the why question will take you into an epistemological, existential crisis of a circle. We can never really get answers. I mean, God doesn't really come down and give us answers all the time for all the details that we want. But what he does give us is ways to deal with it that are productive, helpful, and change us from within into better people. The greatest suffering in your life can produce the greatest person in you.
That's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. You know, I'll share this. And I'm sorry, guys. We're definitely having fun tonight. And but I tell you, we kind of jumped right into some very heavy stuff. And I apologize partially, but I really don't. And I know who's on the line. I see I see Eve, and I see Apostle Rod and Dana, and I see Torrance and Shannon and Jonathan. I know all you guys are deep thinkers, right? So you guys can handle the transition. But what I know for me, much of my art, right, that I create, I've written musicals and books and that, has really come from places of struggle and pain. I had a friend that was actually killed by the police years and years ago, which I don't share actually a lot about, and really was able to create an entire musical production because of my connection with him. And it was, our show Torn was kind of born out of that relationship with him. I know Shannon's on the line. She knows very well what we're talking about here. And so the 1619 production that we're doing is born out of the pain of 400 years in this country of inequality and justice and all those sort of things. And so, I feel you, brother. I feel you on taking your pain and pushing purpose, if you will, and finding purpose in that. And so I just am very grateful. If anybody has any questions, please drop them in the comments section, because we're going to let Dr. Swice go here in a second, and we're going to talk to Dr. Mixon and Dr. Davis in a moment about some other things. But if you have any questions or that sort of thing for him, please drop in the comment section, and we'll go ahead and ask him before he leaves. But if you were to sort of summarize what it is that you have learned in this work in sort of a couple sentences and sort of leave the audience with that, what would you want to leave them with?
The great philosopher and mathematician Pascal, 17th century French scientist, said, "In faith, there is enough light for those who want to believe and enough shadow and blindness for those who don't." If you really want to find hope and meaning in your life and reach out for the divine and transcendent, he's there. Actually, he's never left you. He's always been there with you in the shadows, in the light, and in the darkness, in the suffering, and in the light. Top of the mountain and the bottom of the valley, God is there with you. You just have to reach out and recognize that without him, you're nothing. With him, you can be everything. And then you can find meaning and hope for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
Life, this is not the end of it. This is not the worst that life can get. Things will get better. And this too shall pass. You can become better through it. Just don't become overwhelmed in the flood. Those who drown are not those who fall in the water, but those who stay in it.
I love it. Thank you, man. You know, listen, I don't have a mic. It's the only mic I have in my office. Hold up a second. It's a little YouTube mic. If I could drop it for you symbolically, okay, like this. I don't know if it counts as a mic drop, but wait. Okay,
something else, man.
But you deserve a mic drop for that, man. I love that. And where can we find you?
You can find me. Well, we can't find each other anywhere nowadays. It's at home. Logicallyfaithful.com is the website, which is the same name on the Facebook feed as well. Just go to Logically Faithful on there, and you'll find a lot of encouraging comments, podcasts, videos, and everything there to help encourage you and give you a smile and the heart worth the time.
You know, it's so cool. I tell you guys, you know, this show really is about changing your life and changing the world. And yeah, we're going to talk about politics, and politics is very important, and community is very important. But if you don't have a sort of personal sense of hope, you can't go change anything. And I think what you're talking about helps people to get past the things that have sort of brought them down and get them discouraged. And, you know, I just think we're talking about this internal growth, which is so critical for us to not only heal ourselves, but to then go and heal our communities. And that, I just am so grateful that you're here. I'm going to bring you back. You know, you're a good friend, and I definitely want to bring you back, but I know you've got some things you've got to run and do. So thank you so much, Dr. Swice, and have a great day. And remember, logicallyfaithful.com. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all the other places. I'm not sure if you shared this or whatever. I don't know if they can see you, but if you want to, you know, whatever, just you can find him. Okay. And he's a great guy, great ministry, great speaker. And we've done a lot of good work together. So thank you again, and take care, and we'll see you next time.
God bless you, Ted. Thank you. You're brilliant at what you're doing. May your tribe increase.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. All right, Dr. Mixon and Dr. Davis. All right, let's go ahead and let's talk about the world and what's going on in the world. So I'm going to turn it over to you first, Connie Mixon, because you are a political scientist. You are an expert. You know, I'm going to tell everyone this quick story. When I first started with City College, and you guys know I used to host a TV show with professors, and I've done a bunch of stuff like that. But I got to tell you, Connie, I don't know if I've ever told you this, Connie, but when I first got here, like, you were like my model for that, right? So I remember I was just, you know, a new professor, and Connie was hosting all the town halls and doing all the TV stuff. And I said, oh, yeah, I want to do what she's doing. I want to be like her. And lo and behold, I became that. And I was very grateful to be able to work in that capacity. But you really have a heart for the city of Chicago. And the political structure here in Chicago. So why don't you help our audience understand what's going on in our city right now that we should be aware of, that you've been writing about? How has COVID sort of impacted the issues that you write about? Talk to us. Give us an overview of that, if you can.
Well, I think they're all related and connect, right? So we are facing two pandemics right now in Chicago. One is the COVID-19. Another is violence, particularly gun violence. But I think we can see the roots of both of these in this structural, institutional racism, inequality, and segregation that has long persisted in Chicago. So we see huge disparities in Black and Brown communities with both COVID-19 and with any sort of violence. And these are neighborhoods that are often isolated. They lack resources. They lack basic things like access to transportation, access to healthcare. And this is largely by design, right? And so you have already pre-existing conditions like diabetes, heart disease, that are already present in underserved populations and underserved neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. So that just exasperates the challenges of COVID-19 right now. And I'm sort of mixing the two of them with violence and COVID-19 because they're impacting communities in Chicago at hugely disproportionate measure. And this is due, I believe, and Dr. Davis can probably tell us a little bit more about the history of it as well. But from my research, my studying of Chicago, having lived in the city of Chicago for my whole entire life, of seeing this persistent segregation and structural institutional racism that continues to impact every aspect of our lives today.
So, Dr. Davis, I do want to come to you and talk to you about that. I'm going to just give you a little fact that just blew me away. I just assumed that violence would be down because of COVID-19. And although mass shootings across the country are down because there's nowhere to go to find mass groups of people, mass of people, but in the city of Chicago, in March of this year, we had more shootings in March of this year than we had in March of last year. And part of March of this year, at least by, I think it was about the 20th that we went into a shelter in place. Also in April, by mid-April, we had 550 shootings in the city of Chicago. And that was up 64 from last year at this time. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, people are at home and the violence is going down, and the violence is not going down. And Dr. Davis, I think it's important because both of you guys are professors and you really think about these issues deeply. What structurally, institutionally, historically can we look at as the reason for this violence?
Well, first I can just speak on it, outside of COVID-19, right? If you just look at all the factors historically that have led to the marginalization of African-American people in particular, dating back to slavery, right? Then we go through Jim Crow and we look at all this. In fact, Williams, you and I spoke about how the reparations argument always starts in slavery, but we talked about possible reparations after the housing crisis in the mid-1900s in Chicago, right? And how the effects of that are still damaging Black communities. So we have a long history of different unequal things that have happened. But so that has, of course, segregated the city and put African Americans in positions, as Connie just spoke on, to put us more likely to be in dire straits, right? And when you're in those conditions, violence happens, right? Not just violence, but all kinds of other destructive behaviors happen. That's just common sense for the most part, right? And it's not just Black people. If you look historically at all oppressed people, compared to others in their various countries or respective countries, you're going to find higher concentrations of crime where there's higher concentrations of poverty. Okay, now when you connect that to COVID, as she eloquently said already, right? When you have pre-existing conditions concentrated in Black communities, and then you have a virus that feeds on people that have pre-existing conditions, you're going to see what you see. So all of that is combined, but specifically about the violence, here's the thing that's confusing to me. You hear people say on the news and whatnot that depression is going to increase because we're stuck in the house. We can't go to work. People are unsure about the future. Well, you're dealing with a group of people that are in high stress, intense situations anyway. And now you're adding another layer of stress and trauma to that. Why wouldn't you expect there to be more destructive behavior and more craziness going on, right? It makes perfect sense to me. And they say we're staying at home, but what does that really mean? Violence isn't happening necessarily at stores that are closed right now, right? Mm-hmm. People aren't getting shot at clothing stores like that. It's on the street, it's in the neighborhood, it's on the blocks. Mm-hmm. And these orders aren't stopping that. Mm-hmm. So it's not really that surprising to me under these conditions.
I want to say this because I talk about this a lot. and I want to make it clear, we got people watching from, all over the country. I know see some of the names popping in, that sort of thing. Chicago is not the most violent city in America. And I think we've got to be careful about this narrative. We are obviously sort of in the aggregate, the largest, because we are the third largest city in the country. We have the largest number of shootings and deaths and that sort of thing. But if you look at the number per capita, right? I read that there are 17 other cities in the country that are more violent than Chicago. And they include cities like Philadelphia and Miami and St. Louis and Detroit. And so, Chicago gets this I guess I don't want to say unfair or undue attention, if you will, around this issue, but we kind of get, we get the gun violence thing, right? But violence is a national issue. And so, Connie, I want you to talk about national politics for a second, because what happens, I always say, what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. There's violence in Vegas, there's violence in Chicago. These are national issues. The gun violence issue is a national issue, and it deals with sort of national politics. So I want to transition a little bit from just violence into kind of our current political crisis, or where we are now. But why don't you first talk about why violence is a national issue and what we can do nationally? And then I want to talk a little about kind of where we are now and where are we going in a presidential election year in the middle of a pandemic.
So you're right, as you correctly pointed out. So crime itself, since the stay-at-home orders were issued all across the country, crime is actually going down, but gun violence, regardless of where you look, it's either increasing or staying the same. So Chicago is one of like 4 cities where it's actually increasing. We've increased by 11% over where we were last year. And there's certainly, if you want to look at a governmental response or policy tools that could be used to address the challenges that we face with gun violence nationally, we could talk about issues like gun control. We know that our current Congress and our current leadership will not support any form of gun violence. As many of us sat here and we've seen mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting, and we see it on the streets in urban areas all across the United States, and Congress still does nothing. But that would be one national solution that you could see. I think what has to happen in a lot of areas is a local response that is very much community-based. So I think Mayor Lightfoot just announced that they were putting something like $7 million into neighborhoods in Chicago to do community-based casework. But that's further compounded during COVID-19, because this isn't the kind of, violence prevention is not the kind of work that can be done via Zoom, right? It requires these very personal interactions with people. There's different models. Arnie Duncan, I've heard him speak recently, and I'm forgetting the name of his organization right now. But he's got an organization in which they are paying people, right, not to join gangs, not to participate in violence. Former Mayor Rahm Emanuel used to always say one of the best anti-violence tools is a job. And there has to be attention into neighborhoods at a local level. Right? So there's national policy things you can do. The political environment is not likely to support that. Locally, though, there is a lot you can do with community-based organizations, with education, with investment, and dedication to neighborhoods where we see the highest levels of violence. Lori Lightfoot is the first mayor in my lifetime, and I've lived in Chicago since I was born in 1966. So I've gone through both Dailies and a lot of mayors, and she is the first mayor that I have heard in my lifetime talking about economic development and investment and resources in neighborhoods south of Roosevelt Road and west of Ashland, right?
Okay, stop. I have to. You dropped the mic right there too. You're telling me that in your time of living in Chicago, that you've not really heard another mayor talking about economic development south of Roosevelt?
No. Wow,
that's a pretty significant statement.
No, and I study Chicago. This is what
Yes. Dr. Mixon has a PhD in political science and studied under Dick Simpson who is an expert in urban politics, and she's an expert. They've written together. So if anybody knows Chicago politics, it's Connie Mixon. And for her to make that statement is a big deal.
Wow. So I'm hopeful, right? We talked about hope at the start of the show, that there has to be hope. It's very easy to get discouraged, but I'm hopeful that we can start to see some investments in underserved neighborhoods throughout Chicago. I think that will make a huge difference.
So, wow, it's really, I really want to move to the national issue, but this is good right here. Do you want to hop in on this, Davis, at all? I know you talk a lot about, segregation and kind of why we got into this place. Chicago's a unique city. I think it really is sort of a microcosm. It's unique in that way, but to me, it's a perfect place to be to deal with these issues, right? I mean, I personally, I've lived other places in the country, but there's no better place in America, I think, to deal with the issues of race and justice and inequality and, those kind of things than right here in the city of Chicago. And so, I want to move to the national issue for a second, but I want to give you a chance, if you want, before we do that, Davis, to say anything you want to say around, once again, why we're here, how do we get out of here, and how does your work into it?
Yeah, but it's interesting too. You mentioned Chicago not being one of the most dangerous cities because of other cities with a higher violence rate and whatnot. But you have to look at Chicago's a large city, and look at high poverty tracts. When you mentioned Detroit and places like Camden and East St. Louis and whatnot, these are cities that are over, like the whole city is basically impoverished for the most part. Chicago has a lot of the north side to kind of change those statistics. If you focus solely on high poverty tracts, meaning areas that are 40% in poverty or more, and look at the crime rates just within those poverty tracts, which unfortunately is where most of Black Chicago lives because of the segregation of this city. Chicago, I'm willing to guess, right, that Chicago would be much higher on that list for most dangerous, right? So I think that's part of why, in particular, African Americans in Chicago speak about the violence rate the way that we do. But anyway, as far as fixing it, yes, I agree with Dr. Mixon and saying what Mayor Lightfoot is trying to do, investing in these communities, and what former Mayor Emanuel said, that the best way to stop these things is a job, right? I think you're not just going to talk young people out of violence. You're not going to talk a teenager out of a gang saying that's just not the right thing to do. It doesn't work that way. You have to give these individuals another option and try to fight some of the trauma and circumstances they're dealing with, and they lash out oftentimes in violence. You have to try to fix the issue at the core.
I think what you're getting at too is just growing inequality.
Yeah.
You talk about, the difference if you look at census tracts, right? So Chicago being a global city, what's happened is we have an hourglass economy with growing wealth and growing poverty.
Absolutely.
With being middle class. So if we're to look graphically just at the city of Chicago, like the middle class doesn't exist in Chicago. It's been pushed out to the far northwest and far south side, southwest sides of the city. But most of these tracts are either extremely wealthy or extremely
poor. Yep, yeah. Exactly.
Right?
That's wow. Okay, I'm gonna move to the national issues because I totally could spend the whole time talking about this, and honestly, it's worth the time. But we're in the middle of this crisis, and we're in the middle of this pandemic, and we're looking at depression era unemployment rates. I've read somewhere that we've hit 20% now, that we're over 4 million Americans. We are looking at a situation unlike anything we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And Donald Trump is president.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does that mean? Well, it means that we have someone who's in the White House, and I'm nice about this stuff, so I know I'm one of the nice guys on this thing. Okay. Donald Trump came to office as a businessman. Some people question how good of a businessman he was, but he comes into office under this philosophy of, I believe, creating opportunity through division, creating opportunity through xenophobia, this quasi-libertarian economic philosophy, except when it comes to the socialism for the businesses, which is kind of what he has pushed. And people are in need. And he has consistently pushed responsibility back to the states. And, Connie, we talk about federalism a lot in our classes. What? Are we going to survive this, Connie? Please give me some hope. Tell me, are we going to survive this president and this crisis combined together? Please help me. Give me some.
So I'm working on something right now, right? You were talking before about how COVID-19 is opening up doors for creativity in writing. I'm working on something right now about federalism and what we're seeing in terms of the shift of federalism. And I'm labeling it upside down federalism. So it's a concept I've been working with for a little bit. We started to see it with immigration, with climate change, with states and localities taking the lead because our national government is so polarized that it's paralyzed. So cities and states have been picking up the slack on public policy issues. Now with COVID-19, it's really playing out in real time, right? Just how inept our federal government is and how unprepared they are that states and localities are stepping up to the plate. Like, Governor Cuomo in New York is suddenly like everybody's idol. Like lots of people didn't used to like this guy. Now everybody's, saying he should be president, right? So we're seeing states and localities being the heroes in this. And that's what's happened because of increasing political polarization that our national government just is unable to act. And our national government's also not taking a public health response to COVID-19, right? So they're documenting and they're reporting the numbers, but we're not doing much in sort of mass testing that you have to do with public health and contact tracing that has to follow after that. And it has to happen, as we were talking before, in impoverished, segregated neighborhoods, right? Because that's where we're seeing the largest spikes. But what our national government is doing is just reporting. They're not taking a public health view of this. But we're seeing some of that coming out of our local and state governments. So if there's hope, maybe upside down federalism will save us.
Yeah, maybe it is the states, and Dr. Davis, however, the upside down federalism position, I'm assuming kind of you're arguing that at the end of the day, all we have left maybe in this situation is the states to help us. And yet in your work, Dr. Davis, you have a long sort of history of the states really screwing us over, if you will. Okay, people of color. I hate to use that terminology, but it's the only thing I can come up with at the moment.
Right.
That history. What has been the history of African Americans and states' rights?
Yeah. Well, we've all heard of Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, right?
Yeah.
That was, basically pleading with the federal government to come in and stop the states from doing us dirty, right? But to bring the kind of the racial element into this discussion, some would argue that the lack of a public health response that we're seeing to COVID, as Dr. Mixon mentioned, is because African Americans are the ones so disproportionately impacted negatively by the virus. There was a joke going around online. All jokes have an element of truth. But when they started opening up states, they were saying until the golf courses start opening, stay your black bleep in the house, right? Until they start opening places that predominantly white people go to, don't trust it. When they found out that African Americans was like 70% at one point of the people getting this thing or dying for African American, they were like, oh, okay, well, hey, let's open up. It's not that bad. And we're like, wait a minute, right? So I don't know, but it's something to investigate. But yes, so whether that's the state or federal government, I don't think that the interests of African Americans are going to be at the forefront as far as our health and well-being. I think economics now, everybody's talking about we have to get the economy stimulated again. Now, my grandmother and everybody is dying of this disease. Neighborhoods that are mostly African American are being totally destroyed by this disease. But we got to get the economy going again. Let's not worry about that. If you're young and white, you're healthy. We'll get over it later. There'll be a vaccine eventually. That's kind of crazy to me.
So, Connie, can you talk about how this thing is really divided on partisan lines? The states that are opening quickly are Republican states. The states that are more cautious are Democratic. Talk to us about that, please, because that's a huge issue.
Right. I mean, I think all of this too, right? Like what I think we're seeing is a realignment of a whole bunch of stuff. We're seeing realignments amongst the political parties. We're seeing realignments in governmental structure, but we have become so polarized, and and part of it is due to segregation, and not just segregation by race, but segregation by income.
Yep.
Right. So as the nation has suburbanized, more than half of us live in some sort of suburban area. Many suburban areas, through restrictive covenants, restrictive deeds, redlining, all the rest, right, have been able to wall themselves off from people who are different than them, right? So we're segregated geographies. So if you live in an area or a suburban cul-de-sac, right, where all the $300,000 homes are, or you live in the city where all the $200,000 homes are, or the other area where there's $1 million homes, we don't interact with people that are all that different from us in terms of ideology, in terms of race, in terms of socioeconomic status, right? There used to be a time when we think about cities and urban planning that people would interact with people that might be different from them racially, ethnically, so any sort of socioeconomic characteristic, income, earning, wealth, any of those that you want to look at, right? But that doesn't happen so much today. And we've become very separated. And it's not just the blue state, red state that we see the maps after the Electoral College, but it's by actual geography within states. So we see lots of downstate areas, and even where I teach. So I live in the city, right? But I teach in Elmhurst. The city of Elmhurst is saying, oh, we don't have those city problems, right? We ought to be able to open up our restaurants here in very white and very rich Elmhurst, right? But we don't have any sort of metropolitan regional planning. They can't just wall off COVID-19.
Yeah. Right. They said that Iowa, I read an article this week that said that Iowa has more cases than South Korea. And that South Dakota has the fastest growing cases in the country. And my father lives in Indiana. He lives in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And for a long time, even he was saying, oh, well, that's a problem you guys are having in Chicago. It's not really affecting us here. And yet that you take that and you apply it to gun violence, you apply it to healthcare, you apply it to, and that's why these issues continue, because people in this country very easily go, yeah, there's violence on that block, but there's no violence on my block. So why on earth am I going to fund an anti-violence program on that block?
And what a coinky dink, all those problematic blocks are all darker than the other ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got man. No, you're right. We got a few comments, and then we're going to stop. Don't forget, you guys, we're going to have a fun. This is a fun debate. We're going to have a totally, I guess, meaningless debate after this, But hang on for that too. But I want to just read a few of the comments that are on here. So Tanisha says, I agree, but we all know taxes fund all the resources like schools and other programs. The impoverished neighborhoods rarely have tax-paying citizens. That's why we get the bottom of the barrel. Okay. Well, if you look at the property taxes in poorer communities versus wealthier communities, I believe she's probably speaking to that there is the tax base there. Also, Eve Gomez, who says that this is about the census. That's why it's important that everyone gets counted. Either one of you guys want to talk about the census right now and why it's important, Connie? I think I actually let you talk about it because I know you've also, didn't you run for Congress at one point as well?
I did not.
Okay.
I've had many a student. I've worked on professional campaigns, but I did not.
Okay. I thought you were at some point, but I want representation. That's why I brought that up, because congressional representation is critical. Why is the census important for us?
So the census counts everyone. I might argue that there's better ways to count us, but we still follow this census of trying to count people, which raises all kinds of problems because it's always an undercount, particularly in underserved areas. But it's important to fill the census out because not only does it determine the number of U.S. House representatives that we get in Congress, but it determines things like funding for transportation, funding for healthcare, federal funding for education, for infrastructure, for our streets, for fire, safety, any of those type of things. Any sort of federal grants that we're receiving are allocated based on population, which is measured by the census. I don't think the measuring tool is a perfect way to do it, but that's what is used. So it's very important to fill the census out.
I think as you were talking, I was thinking about the fact that the census issue, I want to talk about this again, maybe next week, or maybe I have you come back. I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about mail-in voting during this crisis, which the president had a few words to say about this week. So there's a bunch of stuff around that we need to probably tackle. And so I'd love to have you come back if you're willing in the next week or so. And we'll talk a little about that as well. So anyway, so I think the census is very important. James Bargener says that there's always been violence in the community, and now it's putting people in panic, this pandemic, causing them to act more erratic. Davis, you agree with that?
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Yeah. So anyway, so we got a lot of amens, and that's good, and go Dr. D and go Dr. M and that kind of thing. So we got a lot of facts, which I've learned from my students. And Davis, you know this because you're the hip hop professor, but just the simple statement facts is like a huge acknowledgement of the truth. It is the highest praise, right? Just facts. Okay, so let's get some of that. Okay, so let's see here. Aaron Mallory says, "Hey, Aaron, what are the panel's thoughts on educating more inner city young men on gun rights and ownership and the legal process of owning a gun?" I'm gonna leave that one alone. That's you guys remember that in Michigan last week there was this group of African American folks that were protecting a state legislator. And so Aaron's like, what's up with people in the inner city getting guns to protect themselves? I've got thoughts about it, but I'll let the panel tackle it if you want to. That's a good question, huh? Okay, I'll come back to that one, Aaron. I think my panelists are a little. You guys don't hold your tongue very often, but I think you guys are holding your tongue a little on this.
It can go so many ways, and we don't even have time for that.
Okay.
I could go straight like militant mode, or I could go family man and think about kumbaya euphoric mode. I mean,
yeah. Well, Aaron did say, and I know Aaron's very community involved, community leader, real estate, and some other areas. He said we do have to look at this as a mental health issue, which I think is a very important point that he made as well. Eve said that not until something happens in your area do people really care, which I think is important. Rick Force said, with state and local budgets so stressed due to COVID, how likely is it that investment in poorer communities will occur anytime soon, even with the Democratic administration? I'm going to leave that one with you, Dr. Mixon. Why don't you handle that one?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Budgets are already stressed. Chicago, the state of Illinois has been broke. Chicago's got a huge deficit. So I think you're right to question that. I don't think under the Mayor Lightfoot's administration, it's going to be the first thing cut, whereas it might have been under previous administrations. What we saw under Richard M. Daley's administration and the Rahm Emanuel administration was more and more investment going downtown, going to the north side, along the lakefront, and it just kept compounding through the use of things like TIFs, for example. I think that is changing a little bit, but yeah, you're right. I mean, we're in not a recession, likely a depression, and so money is going to be tight.
Yeah. So Aaron's pushing the it's a legal right here. Let me handle that one, and then I got one more question. Then we're going to wrap this up in a second. But okay, so I'm going to actually quote Bill Maher on this. Okay, the commentator, the HBO TV host. Bill Maher says, among many things, something that I agree with, some I disagree with. I like his statement on this. He says that I don't like guns. I don't want guns. I don't agree with guns. But as long as you have one, I want one too. And I am a person that really challenges the Second Amendment notion that everyone should have a universal right to carry weapons for themselves. I think, as I teach in my classes, that really, if you look at the founders, this question of a militia is very important to the idea of carrying weapons. And even so much so that it's even written about in other parts of the Constitution, what the militia would do and how it would arm and train and discipline the militia, the government would. And so I think there's some stuff there. But so my Davis talked about kumbaya versus reality. I don't want guns at all, right? I would push, if I were the king of the world or the president, I would push to restrict guns heavily.
I agree.
However, that's not the world we live in.
It's not.
So I think, Mr. Mallory, I would be potentially open to some training and of folks who are in inner city communities, even young people, so that we could mitigate some of the sort of innocent bystanders and all those other kind of things that happen in communities. I would be open to it. Some responsible gun ownership in these communities, although in principle, I don't want any more guns at all, period, point blank. That would be my thought on that. Now, Nook is a friend of ours here, and he says, Ted, as you know, I work in a juvenile center, and one of the many topics is making the youth aware of their rights and what steps to take. So he's on Mallory's team on this one. Very important. So there's some pushing here of this, and I think it's a very important issue. Why do we dance around this topic? People are not going to stop carrying these weapons in these communities. You're right. You're right, Aaron. Aaron, you're right. I don't want to dance around anything. You're absolutely right. We're not going to. Once again, from my vantage point, I think we can do a lot to limit the amount of people that have guns in this culture, in this society. But we're not going to do that. And so we have to talk about what we have to do instead. And I think what you're talking about is very good. Eve says all violence is coming from mental health issues. And we know when you know better, you do better. We have many people who are not treated. And of course, we have a special person on the line here. I have to read her comment because she lives with me. She's married to me, and she bore 3 children for me. My wonderful wife, Rosalind, is on the line, and she says that not everything that is legal is good for you. And I could definitely agree with that one around a number of issues.
Slavery was legal.
Exactly. Okay. I'm trying to move on, but this comment section is just jumping, man. I'm trying to stop, and they keep popping stuff up here.
I have a question though.
Sure.
Do guns really make you safer?
Aaron.
I haven't really seen any data that suggests that guns make you safer. I think it makes you feel safer, but I think it can be argued as a false sense of security.
The data suggests that if you have a gun in your home, you're more likely to kill someone in your family, whether accidentally or purposely, than not. I talk about this a lot in the gun violence issue. There are more deaths by suicide than there are even by handguns. So there are about 24,000 deaths a year by suicide and about 14,000 per year murders by handgun. We have a larger problem with people killing themselves with guns in our country than we do even with the homicide issue. And if you think about that, now think about how significant that is. And we still have gun numbers are up even this year. I think in 2020 so far, we already have 1,000 suicides by handgun and 6,000 homicides, 15,000 deaths total so far up through May.
Wow.
We've had 90,000 people die from COVID-19 in the last 3 months. So think about this. We have an epidemic of gun violence, and COVID-19 is killing people at 4 or 5 times faster rate. It's unbelievable. So anyway, okay. All right. Okay. James Bargenier talks about racial tension and police brutality, which I am not getting into today. We will come back and deal with that one next week because that's a huge issue. We definitely need to do that. Also, Tanisha says that unlawful use of weapons is a big issue. And there are legal ways for them to do it. So she's talking about that as well. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this up, guys, this part, because we're going to get into our little musical debate. But if you guys want to just close out with a final thought about anything we've talked about, I would give you a chance to do that before we go. So I'll give you Dr. Mixon and then Dr. Davis.
From my dear friend, President Barack Obama, vote.
Vote. I love it. Thank you. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Davis.
I would just like to recommend and encourage everyone to take this virus seriously. Wear the mask, stay in the house, stay away from people. There's another joke going around the Black community that Black people think social distancing means just stay away from people you don't know. But we still go hang out but we still go to our friends and family's houses. That's not it. You need to limit your interaction so we can slow this thing down and protect yourself because people are really being hurt by this.
Thank you all so much. You guys are wonderful. TJ, Aaron, James are still going on this. I love you guys, man. I appreciate it. I'll close out. I mean, I just got to, they're talking about, Aaron's still talking about how, when you see your friends dying, this is an important part of this violence issue is an important part of navigating through life. Very important. James talks about how he believes that without guns to protect ourselves, the government has more authority over us. And so those are good issues. We'll come back to those, but I thank you guys so much for that. I thank you all for joining us. I'm going to try to cap this here so that people will come back next week. Remember, every Saturday night at 6 p.m., we're doing change. We do politics, we do faith, we do arts, we do a lot of stuff. Thank you, and thank you. Connie, Daniel, it has been a pleasure and an honor. We will see you, Connie. We're going to bring you back next time. And Davis, you're going to stay here with me for a little while. So,
all right, I'm going to check out that book too, that 21st Century Chicago.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Take care now. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Davis, it is me and it is you in the ring right now.
You sure you don't want to reconsider your stance on this?
Now, check this out, people.
Sure you want to go through with this still?
Bro, we're doing this. Now, look, folks.
You don't want to change your vote.
Now, listen, you can even throw in other artists. Now, those of you guys who don't know what we're talking about, this is our last little 15 minutes of the show, and we're doing something real fun and artistic. MJ versus Beyonce. This professor with all this academic wisdom and everything is telling me in class one day, he walks in and he goes, hey, man, Beyonce has surpassed Michael Jackson. I'm like, are you nuts? I got all these, bro, I got my data. I did my research here, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and let you, because I got some MJ fans who popped in. They're upset. Sure. But, okay, Dr.
I told you, I know I'm outnumbered here.
Okay, you might not be, though. You might not. You might get some
ready,
too. So I'm going to give you your opening statement, sir, okay, because you have made a very controversial statement that suggests that what do they call it? The Queen Bee? What do they call it? What's her name?
Queen Bee, yeah.
Has surpassed the gloved one.
The gloved one, yeah.
In terms of their cultural, I see you, Felicia. In terms of their cultural significance.
I wouldn't go that far.
Statement. Okay, what is this? What is the statement?
All right. So let me be clear. Let's be very clear. If you remember, this whole thing started with me. I don't know what we were talking about, but I simply stated that I think she's a better performer than Michael Jackson, right? So that debate started. You went crazy, started moonwalking through the office like your eyes bulging out your head. You went crazy. And then it evolved into who was just if she passed him overall, and then we started debating that. The second thing I want to say before I go any further, I respect Mike. I understand what he did. I was never a big Michael Jackson fan. I like Beyonce, but I don't just be banging her in the car either, to be honest. But if you're looking at the reality of things, you know what I mean? The reality of things, I really believe in what I'm saying right now.
Okay, so.
Which is that I think Beyonce not only has possibly already passed Mike, my real argument is that she is clearly on the trajectory to pass Mike because she's ahead of where he was at this stage. And she's a better performer.
Okay. She's a better performer?
I think she's a better performer.
I can do with you some. She's a better performer. Are you nuts? Did you fall off a bike the other day?
Listen.
Okay. All right. You know what? Let's be academic, shall we? And let's be civil. We are friends.
This won't stay civil long.
We're colleagues. Let me share a few facts with you, shall I, please? Okay.
Let's go.
So Michael Jackson, at age 11, is the youngest vocalist ever to hit the pop top 100. In 1970, he hit the charts at age 11 with "I Want You Back." Michael Jackson was the youngest to reach number 1 on the top charts, tied actually with Stevie Wonder for the age that they did that. Now, if you, by the way, want to throw Stevie, you might want to throw Stevie and some other people on this Beyonce tip too.
Stevie,
which is fine because I can't. Beyonce by herself, you ain't about to do this, man. But you want to throw Stevie on there, throw Prince on there too. I take Stevie, Prince, and Beyonce against Michael. You understand what I'm saying? And I like Stevie, and I like Prince, and I like Beyonce, but you ain't gonna tell me the number 1 album of all time is Thriller, man. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jackson had the number 1 album of the 80s, and then he came back and did the number 2 album of the 80s.
This is a fact. This is a fact.
Before Michael Jackson, him getting passionate. Before Michael Jackson, there was music videos didn't even exist. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I agree.
African American artists couldn't even go on MTV before Michael Jackson. There were no music videos. Michael Jackson, there's another statistic. He is the first American entertainer to ever sell more than 100 million albums outside of the United States. He was a global phenomenon. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so Beyonce is good. And my argument is, I like Beyonce. I do like Beyonce. I like her. She's cool. You know what I'm saying? But she would tell you herself Michael's better than her.
Yeah, that's respect. Show him respect.
So what's your main argument? I don't even know what it is.
All right. So all right, here's the thing. First, if the argument is whether or not Michael Jackson was a child prodigy, you got me. Yes, he was a child prodigy. But Michael Jackson, in our memory, Michael Jackson that became the cultural phenomenon and the icon wasn't 11. We think about Michael Jackson, the Moonwalker. We're thinking about Michael Jackson, the Thriller album, That Guy. Okay. So if we're comparing that guy to Beyonce, who was around a similar age when she blew up, let's talk about some more facts. Beyonce hit the scene at 18. Okay. In 1999 is when that first album dropped, right? It's 2020. She's just as hot, if not hotter now than she was over 20 years ago. I have a hot take for you that's probably going to make your blood pressure go up. But check the knowledge on this. Michael Jackson was essentially an amazing 80s artist. That's about it. Off the Wall dropped in 79. Listen, follow me. Off the Wall dropped in 1979. That was like his big splash onto the scene as a solo artist. Thriller came at 83. I'm Bad, whatever, the 80s. 87. In 91, Dangerous dropped. After that fizzled out, Michael Jackson was no longer the big name he used to be. Once he stopped that tour with Dangerous, and Remember the Time and all that, 92, 93, Michael Jackson wasn't really hot like that no more. He had his cult following and he was big and an icon, but he wasn't just like consistently the guy. So he had a run of about 13 years where he was just constantly dominating. Beyonce's been dominating 20 years plus, and she's only 38 right now.
Okay, did you just miss what I said about hitting the top 100 charts at age 11?
As a child prodigy, nobody's talking about 11-year-old Michael Jackson. Like, we're not thinking about 11-year-old. Nobody's emulating Michael Jackson at 11. You do the moonwalk, you put the glove on, you start kicking your leg with the wrong foot. Like, we do all of that when we think about Michael Jackson. That's who I'm talking about.
I was not alive when he dropped at 11, but I would imagine
his whole family dropped at 11, by the way.
When I would imagine there were many people that were emulating him and trying to be like him. From 11, listen. 11, Thriller came at 23. Bad was at like 28. He's still on top, right? So you got then. Let me say something. Let me say something right here.
Because I knew he was going to do this. I knew he was going. I'm ready for this already. I knew he was going to do this.
You're about to make me act ignorant. You know what I'm saying? I am a professor. I'm very polished in these things. And I try my best to come. You about to make me act a fool up here on Michael Jackson like this.
Let's take it there. 11. Okay. He dropped 1970. The Jackson 5 came on the scene and blew up. Right.
Yes.
So let's even give him that. I just told you Dangerous dropped in 1991. So let's just count when he was 11, when he was a little kid that nobody thinks about now. Let's count that anyway. We're still talking 21, 22 years. Beyonce's at 21 years right now. She's only 38. So what do you think in 10 years, what are we going to be saying when she drops 3 more #1 albums? Beyonce, another fact, the only artist in music history for all 6 of her debut albums to all be #1. And she's only had 6 albums. They're all been the only artists in history. Okay. And she just dropped the #1 the other day, and she was rapping. So not only can she sing and dance and perform, she raps.
Okay. Somebody just told you to go have a Snickers break, bro, because you. Okay, I'm about to hit these comments in a second because they're cracking me up. The comments in a second, but I just got to say this. Part of the reason why Michael Jackson was not as hot in the 90s as he was in the 80s, if you want to make that argument, and I will look, I don't know if I'll give you that, right? I'll give you that. It's because Michael Jackson was a businessman as well. And what he did was he went and bought the Sony catalog during that time and started owning everybody else's stuff.
You don't want to bring that in.
Let me finish. Recognizing that I've been on this stage all my life, and now I am going to go ahead and produce music, and I'm going to own. And so literally, Little Richard, let's write this when Little Richard died. Michael Jackson owned Little Richard's music. And when he found out that when he bought the catalog of Little Richard, he gave Little Richard his music back because Michael understood the power of ownership. And so he moved, I would say, from moonwalking to the next level. And that next level was ownership, bro. Now, cool. I'm going to let you counter that, but then I'm about to hit these comments in a second.
I have an amazing counter for that, by the way. First, and it's something I left out too. Those hits when Beyonce was 18, those hits for 20 years, you know she wrote those too.
You think Michael wasn't writing and producing his own music?
He had Quincy Jones, the musical genius behind his music. Let's be true or not. He had a whole team of legends behind him. Beyonce writes these hits, but let's go to business. Do you know she owns part of Uber?
I didn't know.
Yeah. Do you know this woman is worth hundreds and hundreds of millions? You want to talk about musical rights? Have you heard of Tidal, the streaming service, where they allow artists to own their rights to their music and stream? That's her and Jay-Z behind that. That's changing the whole way music is even consumed.
You ever heard of a music video?
Have you heard of Beyonce's album where she did a whole album of music videos for every song? The first artist to do that?
Did you ever notice she would never even do a music video? Whoever Michael Jackson created a music video genre?
That's a fact. I'll give you that.
Okay. All right. Let me read some of these comments. Okay. This comment section is blowing up. Okay. Okay. So
by the way, he did all this business while staying hot. Michael, to your point, he had to fizzle out to do his business.
And I was being kind on the fizzling out thing. I would suggest that honestly, he didn't fizzle out. He went international and he became more popular internationally during the Dangerous era, during the History era, than he was even in America. And that was what was happening. So it was like, bro, he's the most famous person on the planet when he lived.
And he's a great 80s artist.
Okay, I'm going to read these comments, folks, because I can't. My blood pressure's going up. So y'all see why I'm doing this live here.
I can't even see the comments. Well, I got to do my phone.
No, you got some comments on you too, man. I don't know if you can. You can look on your phone if you want.
I want to see how I'm getting slaughtered. I knew this was going to happen.
All right. Tawana says, Dr. Davis, you are delusional if you think Beyonce is a better performer than Michael Jackson. Just throw the segment away. Beyonce is bad, but she ain't no Michael Jackson next. Okay, that's Tawana's comment. Gennaro Jackson says, when did Butterfly drop and the songs R. Kelly wrote from MJ? I know R. Kelly wrote You Are Not Alone, and so that is from the History album. And so that was kind of the mid 90s, Gennaro. Felicia Wells brought a scripture on you, dude. And she says, Luke 6:40, she says, the student is not above the teacher, but everyone who's fully trained will be like their teacher, meaning that Beyonce cannot be above, just like maybe MJ, I don't know, can never be above James Brown in that way. I don't know. You know,
see what I'm saying?
Right. So I would agree with you. I would think MJ surpassed James Brown, but under that logic, MJ could not surpass James Brown because
and Michael Jordan wouldn't be greater than Dr. J. Nobody believes it.
All right. Okay. Plus, Gennaro said MJ stayed in rotation and touring after Dangerous. He wasn't
dropping. He wasn't the cultural phenomenon in the night. Listen, I was born.
Not Alone was a hit in the 90s. They Don't Really Care About Us was a hit in the 90s. I'm trying to think of the History album. Oh, come on, man.
I became a teenager in the 90s. I couldn't have cared less about Michael Jackson.
That's you. You were in the hip hop.
15 right now, you know Beyonce. You're all into Beyonce. Even if you're a teenager and you know all about. How does your daughter loves Beyonce?
Okay. Who does?
Your daughter. How old is she?
No. Our kids are no.
I bet she's a Beyonce fan.
Let me finish these comments. No.
I bet she's a Beyonce fan.
Okay. No.
A fact.
Again, okay. Tawana says Beyonce would tell you herself she can't touch Michael Jackson. Not only out of respect, but because it's simply the truth. Sorry, Dr. Davis go somewhere and have a Snickers break. Brick Force says Jackson's had 5 singles in the top 30 in 1 year when Michael Jackson was pre-pubescent. Rosalind says, my wife, Dan, you cannot separate Michael's earlier career from his later career if you're spanning all of Beyonce's career. It's trying to compare apples and apples.
I did that though. I did
apples
that.
and oranges. They may be fruit, but they're different.
No, I'll give you that even. But going from 70 to 91 when Dangerous dropped, Beyonce 99 to 2020. So even if we go there, they're at the same amount of time, and Beyonce's only 38. She's
okay.
Hotter.
Okay. All right, I want to go through some more of these because these are very important. Gennaro says Beyonce doesn't write or produce. Felicia says everything she represents is what she emulated from Michael. You're gonna say she does. Now you got a Beyonce comment here. Jonathan Reynolds says this is on your side.
Finally,
the complexity of Beyonce's live performances render her a challenging contender for any genre and any artist of any time. I will give you that. The girl, she got her shows off the chain. I give you that. I will. And the fact that she danced in the hills and stuff like that,
that's crazy.
And she doing all the choreography, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love Janet. I'm a Janet fan, but even Janet ain't doing the stuff that Beyonce is doing in certain ways. But once again, out of respect, Beyonce would give credit to Janet and Mike in there, okay?
Yeah, out of respect.
Okay. All right. So, Felicia says that's like comparing Papa Bear to Baby Bear. When we talk about Beyonce, Patrick says she has singles. When we talk about Michael, we talk about whole records. Dang.
The first 6 albums are all #1, the only artist in history for whole albums. I'm talking.
Yeah, hey, people out there need to fact check that stuff and put something in the comments.
The only artist ever.
Okay. Roslyn says without Michael being a performer, Beyonce would still be singing on her parents' front porch. Sheena says the Thriller was Michael's vision. Abigail likes a debate. Okay. Jonathan, come on, man. I thought you were on my side, man. Jonathan's a millennial. Now, you know this is a generational breakdown, by the way. All the millennials are popping on you for you. So Jonathan's talking about Beychella, and she redefined the most. Explain the Coachella. What is it?
Coachella and the Beychella. Coachella Music Festival. Beyonce came, destroyed it. Now they named it after her in popular culture.
Okay, all right. Gerald says she did write some of her songs, but her catalog still in touch. Deshaun asked me when I'm running for president. I'll holler at you later, Deshaun. This is much more important right now. Okay. Gennaro said he didn't drop anything else. Deshaun, I guess 87 is a millennial, I guess. Is that a millennial? I think that's a millennial.
Yeah.
A millennial. He, as a millennial, loves MJ more than Beyonce. Michael's records are iconic. Beyonce's records are good, according to Patrick. And my wife clarified our kids are not Beyonce fans. I didn't clean that up, and they are Michael fans, but that's
I mean,
Dang, Patrick! Oh, Patrick! I'm gonna get it this one. Patrick goes, Janet's catalog is more robust and iconic than Beyonce's.
People are speaking with emotions. You can love Mike all you want, that's fine. But if we're talking about just trying to be somewhat objective here, she's 38. She has a whole nother 10 years plus, and she's building, she's growing. We all know Mike started to fizzle. And she raps. she can rap.
But can she moonwalk?
Yes.
Can she do the robot? Can she take a microphone, throw it up in the air, do a spin, and then grab the microphone and keep on singing?
Check this out. I was dragged to a Beyonce show some years ago at the United Center. Beyonce was doing flips around the United Center while singing, like flipping and floating around the United Center. Dude, she does some stuff so crazy. People think she sold her soul to the devil to get those abilities, right? Like they think she's a Satanist because they're like, nah, this ain't right. Like that should tell you something. Like, come on, man. Like the woman is something different. How about this? How about this? Women hate each other. Right? Okay. Even women like Beyonce. And women hate each other. They don't like anybody. That's a woman. Women even love Beyonce. That's like my best argument. That's my best argument. Even women like Beyonce.
Okay. All right. We're going to be done in a few here, but I'm going to keep these comments. I'm loving them. Patrick said Janet did Rhythm Nation at 26. I actually think, Patrick, it might have been at 23, even earlier.
Janet Jackson can't sing. Janet Jackson can't sing. Facts.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Williams,
Don't do that.
I'm gonna say Janet Jackson can sing.
Don't do that. Don't do that. It's not
Janet
about the
Jackson
vocals.
can sing.
It's about the. It's not. I'm not. Don't do that. It's not about just her singing.
But in combination,
She can sing enough.
Beyonce dances just as good, if not better.
Some people don't think Beyonce can sing. Now, I'm not saying I'm not one of them.
Oh, man.
I'm not. Janet can sing okay. Man. You know, she do a thing, man. A thing.
So
She's trying to be Mariah Carey.
Now she ain't Mariah Carey, but nobody is.
Okay. You got one real good supporter.
And she can rap. Let's remember the rapping.
But Gennaro says no one is checking for a Beyonce rap album. Nobody cares.
If Beyonce dropped a rap album, say it wouldn't go number one. Whoever's in the comments. Let's put $100 on it. That wouldn't go number one tonight. If she dropped an all rap album, it wouldn't go number one tonight. He knows it would, or she knows it.
All right. Jonathan Reynolds, back on your side again. Beyonce hasn't reached her prime yet. She will be the best by the time she is done.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all. Jennifer Lopez is 48. She just did a Super Bowl. She can't sing either. Beyonce is 38 years old. Give her another 10 years of dominance. Like, what are we going to be talking about?
Tawana said Janet would dance Beyonce off the stage right now, and she's in her 50s.
Janet Jackson's an overrated dancer.
Oh, you gotta go, man. This is over. I'm done.
We were just watching the Rhythm Nation video the other day.
What?
Listen. My wife's a dancer too, by the way, right? We were watching the Rhythm Nation video literally 2-3 nights ago, and we were laughing. Like, it's crazy how, like, at that time she was killing it.
That's because that was like 1989.
Huh?
It was like 89 of Beyonce.
Look how Beyonce was dancing at 89.
You see Beyonce's videos at 89?
She was like 4.
It was 89, man.
At 89, Michael Jackson was dancing how Michael Jackson was dancing. Janet was dancing.
Patrick, I don't blame you. Patrick, I'm with you, Patrick. I'm about to cut this too. I can't do this no more. You're right, Patrick.
Like Britney Spears with a sprung ankle.
Oh my God. Goodbye.
That's how she was dancing.
I said, y'all, I can't do this no more. Listen, all my people out there supporting MJ, hit the comments. I'm gonna email them all to Dr. Davis. We're gonna flood his inbox with all these things.
Remember where y'all heard this. Y'all all gonna join the party later. I was just early to the party.
Sean said, Michael redefined music when he was a kid. Do you remember? I mean, he talked about. Come on, man.
Talking about what?
Ghost redefined. He said Beyonce's rap album would never go number one. His videos alone from. Come on, man. I just, you know what? Dr. Davis, we got to agree to disagree.
Beyonce could put out an album, Yodeling. It's going to go number one. It might not be hot, but it's going to go number one.
You did say she doesn't need marketing and stuff like that, too, which I'll give you that.
Drops albums with no singles, and they go number one. She just drops them.
It's a different world.
True.
The music industry was in much more control back in the 80s and 90s.
And that's why it's not so controlled, because of Beyonce and her husband. Through the streaming.
Okay. Jennifer Watson, Professor Watson, our colleague Kennedy King said Janet got her Rhythm Nation moves from her brother. Okay, and it sounds like that's a point for you. So listen, folks.
I thought she said Janet got her with the moves for Rhythm Nation.
Yeah. So if we would take a vote on this, we would take a vote on this. It looks like the MJ folks will win. There's a lot more of them there, but
Watson, help me
I'm gonna
out.
leave it alone. We are the world, Dr. Davis.
Jennifer,
Beyonce have a We Are the. Does she have a We Are the World? Felicia says. Does she have a Heal the World? Does she? I know she has a They Don't Care About Us because she got the whole Black Panther thing that she did. But does she have a We Are the World? She does not. And she doesn't even have a Thriller, man.
She got Lemonade and she got Sasha Fierce joint. That was her biggest album, but she got the revolutionary song though.
Okay, all right.
Got the Black Revolution.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. This is it. I'm done. I can't do this no more. Jennifer Watson didn't even like Beyonce's concert that she went to. She said it was boring. She was disappointed. But you know what? Once again, I will leave this alone. I'm trying to stop. It's just so hard. I'm glad you guys joined us for this. Davis and I have been having this debate for a couple years now. It's nice to share it with some other people.
Crazy.
Tawana she hit you hard. She said stick to the politics and the stuff. She said MJ all day. Heal the world. She said, Davis, you lost. So now I'm gonna close out. David, show you my boy, man. You know, this is my buddy here. We have a really, really good time with this stuff. I'm going to close out with a few announcements, guys. Thank you so much. Next week, we're back here again. We're going to be talking about U.S. politics again. I may be bringing in some more performers to do some live stuff, so I'll let you guys know. Tomorrow, I got Virtual House Church. If you're interested, send me an inbox. I'll send you the Zoom link. At 2 o'clock, we do a discussion. We're doing justice. Actually, Jonathan Reynolds from Salem Baptist, who's a youth pastor there, is going to be one of our guest speakers, and so it'll be a really good time. It's a time where we do kind of a church service, but it's a conversational church service. So there are a lot of presentational ones now, but we try to have conversations. So join us at 2 o'clock. Hit me in the inbox me, and I'll send you a Zoom link. Also, 1619 will be at the House of Hope on Juneteenth, Friday, June 19th. So please join us. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Ted Williams III, or like the Facebook page. Please do that, trying to get my YouTube up. So please do that. We'd appreciate it. Last but not least, I'm about to drop something, Davis, as well. I've been on this quarantine. I wrote me another little book. It's a little audio book. It's a smaller audio book. It's not even political, by the way. It's called Your Life in 4K, Fulfilling the Destiny That Is Uniquely Yours. And so I'm kind of getting into a little bit of a inspirational joint kind of thing. So, I may not be Beyonce or MJ on this, but I'm dropping albums too, man. So if you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll see that. And we'll be selling that book starting actually next week. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm gonna grab that for sure.
Jennifer Watson asked who was pro Beyonce. Professor Watson, please go back and watch this. This was your friend, Dr. Davis, the one you shared.
I thought you were coming to help.
Dr. Davis, you share office with him at the college. If I were you, I'd move out. Okay, I really would. Now that you know this, Jennifer, I'm next door to you. I got you. You come to the office with me, okay? Because this guy, he's tripping. Okay.
Great 80.
Davis, love you, man. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate you, man.
All right,
and take care, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, be cool.